Welcome to TBCN Unplugged. My name is John Casimiro, and I am here with my very special guest, L Raso. And Mike, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I am the founder of the Film Photography Project, and I also have decades of experience in cable television, producing, and production.
Video, film production?
Mostly cable television, cable TV production, yeah.
That's awesome. So let's go all the way back. Well, let's not go all the way back because literally I have known Mike for, do we even need to say how many years or should we just say a long time?
I think you could just say, you know me since we were 7 years old.
7 years old, which,
Yes.
you know, by the looks of us, that's a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And how did we meet?
John Casimiro lived in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. My family, we moved into Lyndhurst. This is in the early 1970s. In your neighborhood, it was a big deal because my parents built a house that was on an empty lot.
Right.
Which apparently also a lot of children in the neighborhood were very upset about because they used to use that lot to cut across.
Right.
Because it was a corner. They used to cut across to, go to high school.
Then all of a sudden they're dropping this mini mansion.
That's right. This building. It was a 2-family house.
Yeah.
So, I guess I just moved in and I was riding by on my bicycle and my Civil War souvenir hat fell off.
Civil War.
And John, people were like, "Oh, you guys are that old." And John picked it up, handed it to me, and I said, "Thank you."
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. When you say, "Oh, I know Mike since I'm 7 years old," people can't believe that you have a friend that is that long ago.
That long, yeah. Let's go back to your first film when you were experimenting with 8mm film.
Okay. Well, if you want to talk about film roots, the whole film photography, shooting stills using film. I mean, to this day, I run an organization called Film Photography Project. So, I've never really made a personal transition into digital photography. I still use analog equipment, and I've been doing so since my parents gave me a hand-me-down camera when I was a little kid. So I just always been shooting since I was a kid, and my dad was an avid 8mm movie. Home. My dad would shoot home movies.
Yeah.
So
as my dad did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And growing up, he'd shoot the home movies, and then a few times a year he'd set up a projector, and the family would watch home movies projected on a screen. Folks may be like, "Oh, I don't even know what these guys are talking about." So I just caught the bug really early, and by the time we were
How old? What was it?
Oh, well, I was still in grade school when I had my first still camera.
Okay.
And into my teen years, my dad had less of an interest in shooting home movies, and I kind of picked up his camera and I started shooting home movies.
Okay.
And that's when, hanging out with John and our other friends from the area, we'd make our, annual trip down to South Jersey, which, in Jersey we call the shore. I'm from New Jersey. I still live in New Jersey. I would bring my 8mm, at the time, Super 8 movie camera, and I would just shoot a lot of home movies. And then as I, graduated high school, got into college, I started taking filmmaking classes. And that's when I started shooting short films. And those are the films, if you watch TBCN, you may have seen some of these short 8mm films that John Casimiro is in. Attack of the Potato People, or The Revenge of Herman. I mean, these were just, not...
They were experimental.
They were experimental. Attack of the Potato People was a short, student film.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my start.
Okay.
And that's,
That was your final project for school.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So tell the story of the day you came in to class with your final project.
So I was at William Patterson University. It was Filmmaking 1, which was the first filmmaking class. And you basically learn filmmaking, how to shoot a film. And the project for the year was to, complete a short film. And then the last day of class, you bring it in and you screen it for the whole class.
Right.
Which you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
The idea was that, each student would shoot 4 or 5 minute, one reel, 50 feet of film, which is 3-4 minutes. But you know, I was over ambitious,
Right.
overconfident, and just really so into it that I shot a 15-minute film, which is like unheard of and ridiculous
Yeah.
looking back. So,
Cost you a bundle back then, I bet.
oh yeah, I mean, I always had odd jobs, whatever it was, delivering newspapers or working at the Lyndhurst Men's Shop or working retail. I always had a job. So any of my personal money I used to make my movie. So everyone coming in with their one little reel of film and me coming in with my film under my arm, practically, an epic. And you don't think about these things when you're young. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't care. I thought it was the best thing. And
Were you like far advanced more than the other students in the class? Would you think, or
there are a few students in class who were very into it, and the students that were really into it really went above and beyond.
Mhm.
And in the classroom situation, when you're taking filmmaking, a lot of the students would help each other out, and many of those students that I went to school with, I'm also I'm still friends with, and we went on to professionally shoot low budget independent movies with. So once I started taking filmmaking classes, that kind of just stuck with me, and that was really very much part of my early life. That led me to my job at Comcast TV3 in the Meadowlands, New Jersey.
I mean, Comcast those days were a lot of fun too, because that's kind of where I got into television production, and I used to do maintenance on the VCRs, the tape decks,
Yes.
that were at the station. And one day we'd be like, "Hey, Tracky, you wanna run a camera?"
Yeah, I mean, for your show here, do folks know you're the track man?
Yeah, some people know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
John is the track man. Most people know him as the track man. Well, mostly because he worked at the track.
Yeah.
Racetrack, dog track,
Whatever. Yep. Right.
track.
Yeah. Horse track mostly.
And when I was at Comcast, we had a show called Track Man's Madcap Laughs.
Right.
Which was like, think of like local television. I mean, TBCN is still that,
Yeah.
which is a rarity and pretty exciting to me.
TBCN is the last public access station in the state of Florida. I
That's
don't know if
pretty-
you knew that.
I did know that.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so my time at Comcast, many of these folks I went to college with, I was working at Comcast and I had the opportunity to produce my own local show, which was Meadowlands Showcase, which was a showcase for talent in the area. So, we produced original programming as well as, screening short films from other filmmakers, shooting bands, shooting live events, just everything in that Meadowlands area. And that was pretty popular. And at the time, once again, I was always overly ambitious. I bicycled because everything was on tape back then.
Yeah. 3/4 inch tape.
Yes. So in order to have your show, screened on another TV channel, you would have to bicycle tapes, meaning taking that copy of the tape and bringing it to another TV station.
Right.
So I used to send copies of the tape to the whole tri-state area, as well as we were part of the CTN cable television network,
Oh, wow.
which also broadcast mostly to most cable stations in New Jersey. So, and I did that for 6 years, and that was a lot of fun. And
It was six. I was going to ask, 6 years you did the
Six-
Meadowlands Showcase for?
6 years, yeah.
How many episodes you think?
Ooh, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 maybe?
Really?
Yeah, maybe.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I retained all of those master tapes, and only this year I started encoding them and getting the media off of the tape so that I could put them on YouTube.
Is there a dedicated Meadowlands Showcase channel?
No, it's part of Alternative Cinema,
Okay.
which is a YouTube channel.
After Meadowlands Showcase, I think you were shooting weddings for a while, and
Oh, well, a lot of people. I mean, even today, like my co-host on Film Photography Podcast, Matt Marash, shoots. I mean, so many people shoot weddings, and as someone in media, it's not uncommon for people to shoot weddings. So yeah, for many years I shot weddings. You have
video. You shot video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you need to pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
So for many years I shot weddings back in my early days, and when I was, I basically took my Comcast job as far as I could, as far as growth was concerned, and there was really no up the ladder You know, like, what do you do next?
Yeah.
So with my years of cable TV experience, and that was producing commercials, producing, you know, programming, I decided to go out on my own to produce low budget feature films and then to market those feature films to cable. So in 1994, I started a company called EI Independent Cinema.
Okay.
And I stayed at that company for 10 years to 2004. And then from 2004 onwards, I kind of wrapped that up. And I started Film Photography Project.
Okay. Around the late 80s, let's say, you worked on your first feature film that was sold on DVD.
Well, coming out of college, as I had mentioned, I kind of, you know, hung out with all the filmmaking friends from, you know, my film classes. We stuck together. We continued to make short films as demos and promos in order to raise money to make feature films. So, I mean, we're recording here today, and just yesterday I drove over to Palm Coast to meet Tim O'Raw. Tim O'Raw was one of my college filmmaking friends, and after we graduated, we shot our first feature film together called The Basement Horror Anthology, and it is like Tales from the Crypt, where it's 4 horror stories with a wraparound host.
Okay.
And we shot that on Super 8 film back in 1989. The reason I was seeing Tim this week was we were recording a commentary track because we recently remastered the film for Blu-ray, upcoming Blu-ray release. Initially, we produced feature films for the VHS market. So back in the day, video stores were the bomb. Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, you know, stores were an event. In other words, you know, folks who lived through the 80s remember, you know, your family getting together, especially on weekends, going to the video store. Even though you had cable TV, you could rent major motion pictures. And that was an opportunity for low-budget filmmakers to, you know, produce their movie and then release it on VHS tape. And then, of course, later DVD.
Right.
And those early movies, The Basement, 1989, Ghoul School, 1990, both I worked with my college friends, and Tim O'Raw was the writer-director, and I was the cinematographer, editor. We produced them and got them released to video stores.
Okay, yeah.
And that was the ambition back then, to produce feature films. Like, that was my goal back in the late 1980s, was to be a cinematographer. Which is why I'm so knowledgeable of cinematography and film photography and you know, everything to do with kind of like on the technical end of things, editing.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of my craft, whereas like Tim was the writer-director.
Yeah.
Tim had nothing to do with like the technical end of things. So we all had our like tasks, you know, lighting director, people that we went to school with, and we worked together as a team. And a lot of, you know, everything that I did back then applies today to anyone listening who wants to get into production. Like the hardware doesn't really matter whether we were shooting on film or if you're shooting on digital today. It's still the you know, the organization, how to put it, you know, the essentials of basically how to do a production.
Right.
So that hasn't changed. So I made those 2 feature films with Tim, and then I was still working at Comcast cable. And after Ghoul School, I kind of took a break from filmmaking. I continued my cable TV career. And then in 94, I left cable to start my own company because I felt confident enough that, hey, there's this independent film market. I mean, back in 94 and that time area, there were films like Clerks and a lot of, you know, indie films. It was the rise of Quentin Tarantino,
Right.
and that kind of indie work. And I mean, nothing I ever produced came
Pulp
close.
Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always working on the micro budget.
Yeah.
You know, always working independently on a micro budget to do things as inexpensively as possible, so you could make your film and hopefully make a profit. That wasn't always the case, but
So Basement and Ghoul School both shot on film, correct?
correct.
16 millimeter film?
Yes.
Okay.
No, The Basement was Super 8 film.
Okay.
One of the very few Super 8 feature films. There are only a handful of Super 8 feature films ever made because it's not considered a professional format.
Okay.
But that's what we decided to shoot on for that particular film. And then the Ghoul School, we shot on 16 millimeter.
Okay. And then what about Psycho Sisters?
Oh, well, okay. So that fits in with once I left Comcast in 94, I started my own company.
Yeah.
One of the first feature films that we got together was Psycho Sisters, and that was written and directed. I'm not a writer-director.
Okay.
So I rely on, or I seek out folks who are writers, directors to come up with a project, and then I could pull the technical end together. So in that case, Psycho Sisters, which recently just came out on Blu-ray. The great thing about all these feature films is that they were shot on film. And if you have something that's shot on film, it could be remastered today in 4K because you go back to the film elements and you just rescan it. As opposed to back then, if you shot on video, standard definition, you got what you got. It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's really no way to up. I mean, you could up res and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not the same. So, Psycho Sisters, I guess incidentally, Pete Jackalone was my chiropractor, who I met through Tim O'Raw, the director of the Basement and Ghoul School. And Pete went to the same college, William Patterson University, as us, but he was 10 years older than us. And he was a chiropractor in New Jersey who had ambitions to shoot movies.
Okay.
Kind of the same thing. So meeting us.
So how does that work? Like he's cracking your back and you guys start talking about filmmaking and he's like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker.
No, I mean, when I was at Comcast, Tim said, oh, hey, I want you to meet somebody because we had our cable TV show.
Yeah.
And Pete Jackalone had done a series of short films.
The day the shopping carts came to life or something.
The shopping carts came to life. And hey, Pete makes movies. So I saw the movies. They're very ambitious. And then we just came up with the idea like, oh, hey, why don't we shoot a feature film? And Pete had this idea, Psycho Sisters. And by the time we pulled it together, it was 1996.
Okay.
And by that time, I'd left cable television and I was independently producing. I mean, I always ask very simple questions like, how are you funding this? Anyone that's doing where's the money?
Yeah.
And like, oh, are you a trust fund kid that you could just do this? Well, I'm not. None of us were. So I always, I was always working on corporate jobs. So once I left Comcast, I was working independently doing corporate video production to pay the bills.
Okay.
And to kind of fund this, EI Independent Cinema, which was my new, film distribution company.
Right. And we worked in the same building for a short amount of time where we would go out on shoots together.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was kind of when I got my feet wet in video production.
I mean, also there's a lot of overlap here of I was doing video production on weekends. I was still shooting some weddings. So whatever I needed to do to make money, to support my dream of what I wanted to do with filmmaking, that was always going on. I mean, so there was no easy street, and there's no easy way. If you have an idea or a dream or something you want to pursue, you need to come up with a plan, stick with it, and have patience.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that happens overnight.
Right.
So I can't stress that enough for people. And I think that, people I've seen over the year who get involved with filmmaking or who want to do something, it's like you have to really stick with it. I see a lot of people like bailing out and quitting without even giving it the proper time.
People do. Yeah, they do. They give up because they, like you said, they need to pay the bills, right?
I've always been very dedicated to my, I mean, I kind of live my work as I still do today.
Yeah.
And there's balance in people's lives. And I realize that. And people have families and you either need to be with a partner who supports what you're doing 100%, or there's going to be some fall off. When I say there's going to be some fall off, I mean, maybe you'll be able to maintain your personal relationship, your family, and then you will not have time to dedicate to your craft of something you're pursuing as a dream.
Yeah.
So there's a give and take. And I was just so dedicated to my work that, there are parts of my personal life that fell apart. I have no children, but I've been through many personal relationships that either didn't work or fell apart because, I'm on Tim O'Raw movie set, or I'm working Psycho Sisters, at 2 a.m. there is no 9 to 5 when it comes to like pursuing, and as far as I'm concerned, pursuing dreams or doing what you want to do. I mean, you come up with a plan and then you have to kind of adhere to it, and you need to surround yourself with people that can support you within reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always a hard worker, so it was never like a lack of money because I always had corporate jobs, and I was not afraid of the work, whatever that may be. And I mean, you worked corporate jobs, and some of those you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
to go do a corporate setup for AT&T for some conference. I mean,
Mhm.
that work's very boring, which is why I think I gravitate towards the creative stuff of low budget creepy horror films.
Mhm.
They're fun. They're hard work, but they're fun.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, at this stage in my life, I'm really trying to, and that's what I do with Film Photography Project. I'm really trying to be as helpful as I can to young filmmakers or creatives who have questions, who want to do things. And I have the experience of that, not only that, but also running businesses and seeing businesses fail and how to pick yourself up and move on to your next endeavor.
Right.
I mean, there really is no, if you're down, you have to pick yourself up and you have to keep moving on. You can't. I've seen people get hung up over. I mean, even like they're writing it or directing or producing a feature film, and like that they get stuck on it. They get angry.
What gets them stuck? Is it just not working with their crew, or?
Well, when you're dealing with creatives, you're also dealing with very large egos. You're dealing with expectations that are not realistic. I mean, when I was producing feature films, I mean, once I got involved with producing low budget feature films, not only did we produce, but we also licensed films from other people.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to have a robust release schedule, back in the video DVD era, I licensed films from other people. And that's when I had to deal with other people. And that became very difficult because people have expectations. And those expectations back then were my film needs to be a blockbuster video.
Mm.
And the same thing applies today, although I'm not primarily in that business. Many of these films that I produce are in my film library that I'm now marketing to, Tubi TV or Amazon Prime or
Right.
channels like that. And I don't really have to deal with third parties anymore of creatives who I represent, meaning I'm licensing or purchasing their film to distribute, because those expectations still exist today of people thinking their film, their project deserves to be on Tubi TV.
Yeah.
Or my film
Yeah.
deserves to be on Amazon Prime. My film's on Tubi TV and is not making any money. Well, why is that? Well, that's because in today's world, just because you have a show, let's say it's Psycho Sisters,
Yeah.
and it's on Tubi TV, it's advertiser based. The only way a filmmaker makes money is if someone's watching it and watching those ads. And, there's an awful lot of competition today, as there's always been. And maybe you just have to understand that people are not watching your movie.
There's so much out there right now.
Absolutely.
With streaming and everything else. And people see that and they believe that, their idea is a great idea. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I think people get overambitious too early and they miss the mark. Don't you agree?
Well, I've produced so many low-budget feature films that I've seen many missed marks. So of all the films I've produced, many were complete flops or
Yeah.
lost money. But I'm okay with it because I produce them and I'm able to just move on. I'm not hung up or I'm not emotionally attached to my movie. And that's where I think some filmmakers go wrong with being emotionally attached to their movie, whereas like it almost ruins their life if it's not successful.
Yeah.
And the thing is today versus back in the video age when you used to, your ambition was to get your film a blockbuster, is that for the most part, anything that I've ever produced or people I know have produced are ultra low budget films, and there really isn't a dedicated market for that type of media, and there never was, and as far as I'm concerned, there never will be. It's like if you can be at the right place in the right time, and there's an opportunity, you may luck out. So back in the day, buyers at Blockbuster would buy X amount of titles per month, and if you were lucky enough that month where they were looking for that type of movie and they saw you on the new release list and they picked you, that's it. There was no real it was a miracle, but it was usually a fluke or by chance or, it was very, very difficult to get into that mainstream market back then. And now in 2025 and beyond, in my opinion, it's going to be just as difficult if you have an independent production to get on streaming, because now there are so many programs. And also when I started, TV networks, HBO Max, I mean, they had some productions, but as the 2000s kind of wore into the 2010s, all of these companies started producing their own content.
Yeah.
I mean, so now it's like,
And there's so many series now too.
and the thing is, so many good series.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
People are binging.
they're binging,
Yeah.
and people don't have much time, and I mean, think about where people spend their time. I mean, on their phone, on Facebook, on Instagram, on
The attention span is so.
well, there's just not as much time for people to sit down and choose what to watch. And when they choose what to watch, they're going to watch, Severance or whatever the new series is on that's streaming on cable. And where does that leave room for them to watch? Oh, I don't know. Psycho Sisters Part 3. Let's say it was new. So for an ultra low budget feature film, that puts it in today in a niche category.
Yeah.
And there are some people who really like and enjoy niche 1960s something weird type movies, or cult movies. Night of the Living Dead, the early zombie films of George Romero. I mean, they fall into a very small niche. So there are so many more programs and so little time. So where does that leave an independent filmmaker today?
Yeah. Where does it leave them?
Well, today it's kind of like, I'd say don't quit your day job. I mean, today
That's what I always tell people.
you have more power than I've ever had when I was coming up in the industry, in the sense that you could produce your program and start your own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But many creatives are not happy with that, because they're looking for that immediate gratification of having 100,000 hits. Or, I mean, I've done it myself with Film Photography Project of having instructional videos, having a YouTube channel, and I take all that very serious, and I'm very patient with it. Like, it took me 10 years on YouTube to have 40,000 subscribers.
That's a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's a legitimate number. But I think for many creatives, that's not enough. I think people are
They want the million hits.
They're encouraged and captivated and starry-eyed because they see influencers.
Mhm.
And so many people today want to be influencers, but they don't know why they want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
So why do you want? I mean, people call these days. I mean, my main task day to day is Film Photography Project, which is to educate people about using analog film as your creative medium in your still camera, in your motion picture camera, in your Super 8 camera. I mean, these formats, strangely enough, are still very popular, especially Super 8, which I started with. And here today, you have people shooting music videos on Super 8.
Yeah.
Or there's a lot of mixed media going on with young creatives. So they'll pick up a used high 8 video camera and a Super 8 camera, and they'll shoot some digital, and they'll produce like a mixed media.
Wait, people are shooting things on high 8?
That's very popular.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah. If you go on eBay.com, there's a number of 8mm video, high 8, camcorders are very attractive to young creatives right now. Because it's once again, it's a physical medium.
Yeah.
And that's what is attractive.
Not to mention that everybody has a camera in their pocket.
Yeah.
There are people shooting feature films on their phone. It's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. People have always been very gear crazy, thinking you need the latest. I don't even know as far as digital, but the latest Red camera or whatever the most popular. People are very like I need the gear to make the movie,
Yeah.
and you don't.
You really don't.
So when I was a kid, I picked up my dad's Super 8 camera. That's all I had. I didn't shoot that many movies because, I didn't have enough money every day to shoot.
Yeah.
But today, you can pick up your phone and shoot. As colleague from back in the old days, J.R. Bookwalter, he shot just like me, Super 8 films, 16 millimeter films, some 35 millimeter motion pictures, and he shot in 2024 a feature film science fiction on his iPhone.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and he drove around the country screening it. And I found that it's called Side Effects May Vary. It's a science fiction film, and I was very inspired by that because I haven't shot anything on my phone.
It would be difficult, just from the perspective of you don't have a smooth zoom. You constantly do they shoot with multiple phones, or are they shooting film style with one phone?
From what I understand, for that particular production, he shot with a phone. Nothing added to it. Separate audio, I think separate audio to get clean
yeah.
audio. And then I believe you shoot X amount, and then you have to dump the files off to your external or to your laptop, and then go back and shoot again because it's limited.
Yeah, your
space.
phone's going to get
Yeah.
filled up.
But to me, it's like, I went to one of the screenings. He had a screening in New Jersey as well as many other locations. And to me, that was very inspiring because, here's a guy very much like myself who started out shooting on film, and there's just no reason why you just can't pick up your phone and shoot with it.
So you're encouraging this kind of behavior.
These
ideas.
I mean, because everything's so short form today, like
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Film Shooter Mike.
Follow, like, subscribe.
Yeah, and that's short form, 30-second, 60-second, 90-second content. And I find that, for me, awesome because I started my career shooting commercials, 30-second commercials.
Yeah.
So, I'm very familiar with squeezing something in 30 seconds, and you don't really need much. And everyone's attention span because of this new media is so shallow that I'm not so sure if I was able to put something on Instagram that was longer than 60 seconds, if anyone would even watch beyond it, because everyone's swiping and, moving on to the next thing. It's really hard to engage and to capture someone's interest for longer than 60 seconds.
Yeah. The attention span these days are just, that's what it is.
Throughout the early 2000s and the 2010s, I mean, people always wanted to get a TV show going to sell a series.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's still what folks are trying to do today. I think that focus is important and deciding what you want to do and sticking with it. You have to give things time. You cannot expect to, before we started recording, I was mentioning podcasting, and I've been producing the Film Photography Podcast for 15 years.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, because podcasting is big these days.
Yeah, so I started in 2009, when kind of podcast was kind of just beginning.
I think you were podcasting before they called it podcasting.
Yeah, at first we called it the Welcome to Our Internet Radio Show.
Ah, yes.
And in 2009, as strange as it sounds, some people still had dial-up.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you put yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, so broadband was fairly new, a few years old, and started Film Photography Podcast because, at that time, my career making movies and selling, distributing DVDs, I mean, that was kind of winding down.
Yeah.
And I just went back to my initial love, which was filmmaking and shooting film, shooting still photography on film. And I found out there was a small community. And back then, that community was on a site called Flickr, Flickr, Flickr.com. It still exists. There was no Instagram. If there was a Facebook, it was brand new. It was MySpace, maybe.
Yeah.
So, everything was kind of new back then. And I started this podcast, and I just slowly found people that were as interested in film photography as I was. And I started it with John Fideli.
Was that surprising for you to realize that there was a market for film photography? I mean, did you anticipate it becoming as successful as it is today? I mean, did you really think you were going to make a business out of it?
I did not. So
I didn't think so.
because I didn't start the filmphotography.store.com, which is the best place to get film because the prices are the best.
That's right.
Until 20.
Nothing wrong with a shameless plug.
That didn't start until 2011. So it was actually podcast listeners who said, "Hey, why don't you start a store?"
Oh.
And at that time, I already had the online DVD store, alternativecinema.com, and I already had the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So I had a shipping department. Justin, who is still now with us.
Yeah.
Justin ran the shipping department, and it was existing. So for me, it just so happens that it was easy transition to say, oh, I'm going to start stocking film, and I'm going to start a new website called filmphotography.store.com. And, you know, my co-host, Matt Marash, he was a listener who said, hey, I'm going to be in New York. Can I meet you guys at the PDN Photo Expo, which was a big photo expo that used to take place annually at Javits Center?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. So he came down, and here's this kid with a backpack. A backpack like the size of him,
Yeah.
with an 8x10 large format film camera, you know, in his backpack. And he lived in Ohio, and he was just so ambitious and excited that I said, well, why don't you come down and be on the show? And he would literally drive from Ohio to New Jersey to be on the Film Photography Podcast. And he's still on the Film Photography
Wait, he's
Podcast.
from Ohio?
Yeah.
Wow.
Columbus.
Yeah.
A lot of the threads in my life of the different types of media and businesses I've been in are enthusiasm, love for what you're doing, and try not to get clouded and complicated by money, because money will like ruin everything mostly.
Yeah.
You can't buy enthusiasm. You can't buy dedication. Modern times, you could buy hits, you could buy subscriptions. It's meaningless. That's why I would never do that. Any of the channels like Film Photography Project on YouTube or Film Photography Project Instagram.
You've never done anything.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's fake,
Mm-hmm.
and everything I do is about authenticity and the reality, the real. I mean, we're shooting film. We're shooting a tactile, something you could feel in your hands. So you're shooting film, and then that. If you're, I encourage people to do home developing of your film, home scanning. So it's very much like an art form of something that you control from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I mean, just like any project or whatever you're doing. If it's your podcast, essentially you're a creator, and you're starting something from the beginning, and then you work it through to the end to where you have a completed project.
Right.
And that's yours.
Yeah.
And
that's for film production, that's for TV shows, and that's for film photography.
Yep. So, if you're dedicated to it and you believe in what you're doing, I'm not making any comment on whether anything's good or not. I mean, certainly back when I was producing low budget horror feature films, I'm not going to say, make any claim of good. Like, oh, this is good. No, we did it.
Yeah.
We completed it. We did it. If it was for a particular market, like for HBO or for cable, and it made that, like it actually made it to air, then to me that's an accomplishment.
Right.
I'm not making any judgment on whether it's good or not, and that's why I'm very detached emotionally from the finished content. It's sort of like me. I don't know about yourself, but I edit a podcast. I put everything I can into it. When I'm done, I do a quick check, listen to it, QC it. Done, airs. That's it. I'm done with it.
Right.
Move on.
You're not married to it.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons why I agreed to come on this podcast was because if there's any way I could talk about things that I did in my life that I could relate to people that would help someone else because of my experience.
Tampa Bay Community Network offers media training, editing services, and resources to bring your ideas to life. Visit tbcn.org to learn more and check out our content on YouTube at Tampa Bay Community Network. See you next time.